and corollary for tax competition. So tax competition without equalization system wouldn't probably function. However, large disparities, particularly in terms of tax rates, persist. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Werner, for a very clear presentation and very timely. We can always count on that from the Swiss. He stuck to the time limit, so I did not have to use my stopwatch on my BlackBerry. But anyway, we see here one vote anyway saying no race to the bottom as a result of tax competition within a country. I'll have to ask my next speakers whether they see a race to the bottom in their countries. And maybe we can have a greater discussion about that. It is important, I think, to remember that tax competition is not a bad thing in and of itself. It does produce efficiencies, as we all know, and has other very positive benefits. Of course, we want to focus in these discussions on what the downsides might be to try and prevent or deal with those downsides or ameliorate them. Obviously, Werner just said that having equalization does help limit the negative effects of tax competition, and so those are the kinds of things we want to discuss today. I'm now going to turn it over to our next speaker, Mauro Benevides Filho, who has quite a distinguished record in public service, also as a professor. I think he can bring many interesting perspectives to this discussion because he has been not only a senator, which is his state congressman, for the state of Ceará, Brazil, but he's been a professor. He has also worked in local government, being the Secretary of Finance of the city of Fortaleza, and has worked as a professor and as a state finance secretary as well. Very long and impressive resume. He is now going to talk to us about his state and the structures within Brazil. We already heard a bit about that this morning from Receita. We're now going to hear from the state perspective in Brazil. Mauro, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I have to say that I was prepared to do this presentation in Portuguese, but I was reminded by Mrs. Perez Navarro that I should speak in English, so I'm trying to do my best. As a matter of fact, my presentation will be maybe completely different from what we have seen so far, because what I have done as a state finance secretary is to deal with tax competition. As our chair has just said, state of Ceará, and I'm telling you exactly what this state is located, what we have seen is that with tax competition, our rate of growth has been, we have been growing faster than the rate of growth of Brazil. Our revenues also have risen much faster than the inflation rate. So tax competition for me, and I used to do this discussion with my students at the Federal University of Ceará, where I teach economics over there. So I hope that I'll try to make it clear that tax competition under certain circumstances, it is a good thing to be done. My presentation, first I'm gonna tell you that we have to talk about regional issues because we have some regional inequalities in our country. Also, I'm going to tell you that fiscal policy can be a tool for balancing those regional inequalities. And of course, what are we doing in the state of Ceará in Brazil? Why the federal government is taking such a close look to our state, because what we have been doing so far has made a difference among other states. In region issues, Brazil is divided in five regions. The green one is the north. The orange, let's say, on the right-hand side, is the northeast, is where the state of Ceará is located. You have the center-west in yellow, the southeast in red, and the south in blue. So Brazil is divided in 5 regions. But they are not developed equally, as I'm going to show you right now. If you take a look in GDP, gross domestic product, if you see that if you add southeast to the south, GDP of those regions, they take into account almost 72% of GDP, which means that the north and the northeast of Brazil, they need additional stimulus to develop their economies, to have more skilled labor, to have more job creations, and so on. That's where fiscal policy, tax competition can make a difference, and that's what I'm going to show in a while. State of Ceará, just to give you an idea how big we are, we have an area of 155 square kilometers. We have 184 municipalities. We have a GDP around $50 billion. We are almost 9 million, our population is almost 9 million inhabitants, and we have a GDP per capita around $6,000. That's the state I'm talking about. Remember, that's the 3 most richest state in Brazil. They are São Paulo, Minas Gerais, Rio de Janeiro, and also Rio Grande do Sul. So always, all 4, they are located in the southeast and in the south of Brazil. And what are the reasons, what are the causes of those regional inequalities? First, under my understanding, national development strategy has led to regional concentration, as you have seen from GDP, federative system without redistribution of public spending, that is a major problem under my view, and of course, poor regions like North and Northeast, they lag in education. So those states, they have to invest a lot in education, but it takes time. It takes 15, 20 years for the results to overcome. So we have to do something in the short run. As